When you go in as a salesperson, I mean, you're selling something to somebody. It's not about you. It's about them.
This is the Storytelling for Sales podcast, a show about leveraging the power of storytelling to ignite your sales performance and grow your business.
Hi, and welcome back to Storytelling for Sales podcast. I'm your host, Ed Bilat, and it's great to have you back. We have a very cool guest for you, Chad Heath, VP and General Manager of Kegstar, joining us today from San Diego, California. And we are talking craft beer, storytelling, and sales. Chad Heath, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Okay, great to have you here all the way from San Diego, California. So Chad, would love to hear your exciting story, but before we jump in, I will ask you our traditional question, if I may. What type of business success story inspires you and why?
I really get a kick out of David versus Goliath stories, taking from nothing to big, and just beating against all odds, right? It's really hard in today's market and in today's society to take something from nothing and grow it to something that's successful and almost call it a name brand, if you will. And I've done that several times, and it's massively gratifying when you are able to see something grow, see something get off the ground, and see something really gain a lot of traction in the marketplace. It's been really fun to do that time after time again, and to just have a lot of success with it. Build a good team, get people rallied around you, have them understand the vision and the direction that you want to go into, execute a plan, and just sit back and watch it really come into something that has never been done before.
Wow. I love that. And your industry is, of course, there's so many of the new brands popping up almost every day, right? So you've probably seen this story several times.
Yeah,
right?
We really have. It is something where the craft beer industry is becoming, some people call it saturated. I call it a little more competitive than it's ever been. Just in San Diego alone, there's over 160 breweries, right? Which is where I live in 160 breweries. Yeah.
Wow.
The definition of a local brewery is almost changing every day. It used to be if you had a brewery in San Diego, you were considered local in San Diego, but now it's there's one down on my block. So that's what I look as my local brewery. So we are seeing a change in the marketplace and a shift in customer dynamics. And that's fine. That's just a maturing of the craft beer industry. And it just makes it that much more important to do, frankly, what you focus on, which is storytelling. And it's been interesting to see how some of the breweries have had massive success with that and others have not. But the ones that have are doing a phenomenal job and really putting out amazing beers, great stories, great messaging, and capturing a lot of really good fans.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. So, all right. I was preparing for our podcast and I looked at your very exciting biography, and I sort of seen these three circles, right, as I described before. Like you know how GPS technology works, right? So then in order for GPS to locate where you are, you need at least 3 towers, and each tower makes a circle, right? And then intersection of all 3 pinpoint your location. So using that analogy, I've seen 3 circles. So like circle number 1, your vast experience in the world of sales, right? Circle number 2, your beer industry knowledge is tremendous, it's great. And the third one, that you're not just a VP, you're not just a sales leader, you're also a teacher. So you're teaching a university course, and you're not doing just that, you're also teaching through storytelling, which I find particularly fascinating for our podcast, which is Storytelling for Sales. So technically, this is as good as it gets in terms of finding a great person to talk to. So if you're okay, I'd like to jump in the first circle, your experience in the world of sales. So you've been a business development manager, director of sales, now VP and general manager. Why sales?
It's a really good question. So I'm going to go back to my early days in selling, and it revolves around a bicycle, right? I wanted a new bicycle. I was getting into road biking, and I went down to a bike shop, and I found this bike, and it was like $750, which was a lot of money back then. And I asked my parents, I said, hey, would you guys buy me this bike? And they said, no. And I said, why not? You guys can afford a bike like this. They go, it's not the point. You don't need a bike that nice. I said, but I want it. I said, you're not going to get it. And I said, well, what if I earn the money? Could I buy it if I earn my own money? And they said, sure, no problem. So I went through their back then, their Rolodex, and I called all their friends and I asked them if I could wash their car. And they said yes, and I grew. Long story short, I was 12 years old when that happened. I sold that business when I was 25, and to have that growth in an auto detailing business from 12 to 25, I didn't put myself through college, but I went through college on it. And I used that story to tell people how driven I was and how I wanted to grow and how I wanted to just be successful, right? And whatever your definition of success is, I wanted mine to be successful in business. And building yourself as a character, as someone who is trusted by people, is very important to me. And I just went into sales, and I found that by being ethical, being honest, being driven, and having the ability to tell the story that I was passionate about, whatever product was that I was selling, resonated with a lot of people. And so it was just something that came easy to me. And don't get me wrong, it's a ton of work, but I was just able to do that on a successful level. And I've been able to parlay that into other paths in my career, took it into management, and took it into helping other brands at Stone develop their story and their messaging and get that out there into the world and hopefully make them successful as well. So sales just worked for me. I tried finance and I wasn't as strong at it as I was in sales. I do enjoy marketing. I feel like I'm pretty decent at it, but sales is my path of least resistance, right? It's my electricity, and it's something that just motivates and drives me every day.
Wow, great answer. So, like, of course, exciting to hear that. But is there any specific roadblocks to watch for people who just get in the field, for young college graduates just going into the field of sales? Is there anything specific to watch for?
Yeah, look, I've been successful because I've worked for companies that I was passionate about what they were doing. I don't think I would have been as successful if I went into a company that I didn't A, believe in, or B, really was passionate about their product. Like pharmaceutical sales, if that's something that you're super passionate about, do it. I was not super passionate about it, so I did not go down that path. I just found that if I was passionate about it, that passion and excitement came across as I was talking to customers or potential customers about it, and that worked. To just sell a program, do cold calling. I've done cold calling. It's very hard. But again, that passion is key for me. And it's something that I have coached many people on to say, if you're going to go into sales, be passionate about it, be excited about it, because you're going to hear no a lot. And if you don't believe in it and you aren't passionate about it, those no's will make you unsuccessful. But when you're passionate about things, those no's become this isn't just the right time right now. So I'm going to come back to you later on when it's going to turn into a yes, and then I will make you successful, and therefore I'll be successful. So you need that passion, in my opinion.
Great. I've read somewhere that no should be taken as a new opportunity.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So this way you spin the negative into positive, and that helps people out. Okay, great. So advice number one, if I hear you correctly, is to find a company or product or service you truly passionate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And that should help you overall.
Correct.
So with your existing company, Kegstar, could you tell us a little bit what do you guys do? And is there like a specific go-to-market approach you're using now?
Sure. So Kegstar is a keg rental company. We rent kegs to breweries, to coffee manufacturers, cideries, kombucha manufacturers, and they're all stainless steel kegs. So kegs are very expensive. If you're going to take CapEx and you're going to spend it on something, typically spending it on kegs is not the first choice. You want to spend it on tanks or people or software or something like that. Like I said, kegs are expensive. They get lost. It costs a lot of money to bring them back when they're empty so that you can refill them and put them back out there. So the service we provide is we rent kegs to customers. We send them in there dirty. They clean them. They fill them. They send them out to their distributor. They let us know where they're going, and we take care of the rest from there. So we worry about if they get lost. We worry about reverse logistics. We make sure that they are sound kegs, which means that the spear is in good shape and the keg body is in good shape. So it's a program that started down in Australia for Kegstar about 5.5, 6 years ago, and it blew up down there. Okay. Correct, yeah, it's an Australian company, and then they tipped up the UK business, and then tipped up the US operations. In the United States, there is a pretty formidable competitor out here that has the majority of the market share, but we have technology in our kegs. And so we can track our kegs using RFID or 2D barcodes. And so we have a better way of knowing where our kegs are so that we don't lose them as frequently. The customer benefits from this because they can also see how many kegs they have in their inventory at any given time at their brewery. So if they can see how many empty kegs they have, how many full kegs they have, and how long they've been in their brewery, they can have a loose warehouse management system to try and help them track through their process as well. So it's a win-win for both of us. We know where the kegs are. They know how many kegs they have and what they're filled up with. They can track kegs down to a batch code. So if they have to do a recall on kegs, we can tell them where those kegs are and they can go pick them up. Kind of thing. So it's a pretty cool system. Yeah,
fantastic. So when I hear the word keg, so I'm thinking about the cold beer. So I think right away this is a great opportunity to dive into our second circle, which is beer industry knowledge, and this is a fantastic storytelling opportunity, right? So why beer?
Man, I fell into beer. I was working in the automotive industry. I was working for McGuire's Car Care Products, which makes waxes and wheel cleaners and things like that for the automotive industry.
Okay.
An awesome job, super passionate about it. And we were doing a photo shoot over by Stone Brewing Company, which is out here in San Diego. Now they're a global brand. Anyway, we were doing this photo shoot, and one of the people at the shoot said, "Hey, have you ever heard about Stone?" And I'm like, "Yeah, love their beer. I love to cook." I just went on their website and saw that they were hiring for a sales manager. So I put a funny cover letter and a resume together and sent it over to them. And like 7 interviews later, I fell into the job, and it was just a dream job. Absolutely fantastic. I've never really had anything more passionate than that. Great people, great brand. We distributed Stone and about 35 other brands of beer in Southern California. So
35?
It wasn't just 35 other brands, and that's pretty typical. When you look at other wholesalers, they're distributing a portfolio of beer, and Stone was no different. But really, the secret to Stone's success was they had all these craft breweries that were small and from all over the nation. And Southern California is a major marketplace to sell beer in, obviously. And so we were trying to find breweries that were like-minded, that needed our help to get access to market. And frankly, that was what we were really good at doing. And then we went up against the big guys, right? The Budweisers and the Miller Coors and the Coronas and all those guys. And frankly, we wanted to educate consumers to show them that there was a better way or an alternative to what they were used to drinking, right? Craft beer is all about rich flavors and very interesting beer and things that, frankly, people just haven't ever been exposed to until we came into town. And back in 2008, when I went to them, Stone was pretty small. And when we had the opportunity and the ability to start exposing people to really flavorful beer, we went from getting 1 tap out of 20 to 2 taps out of 20. And then eventually it went to 10 taps, right? And then eventually that customer became 100% craft, and they went away from the major domestic brands. And that's really what's been happening across the nation. When you look at the explosive growth of the craft beer society, it's just people are understanding that there are a lot of choices and a lot of other beers that they had never really thought about before. So it's been pretty cool to watch.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the competition that high, like, isn't it like really hard for a new company to enter a craft beer market?
It's very hard. The nice thing about beer in California, at least, is it's highly regulated. So when you go to market, you can't do discounts on beer. You can't pay to play. You can't buy the guy a Ferrari if you put your kegs on, right? So it's
Okay.
that's the beauty of it. It's a fairly level playing field in that regard. I'm not saying everyone plays by the same rules, but if you're going to play by the rules, those are the rules. And so it was all about education, and our sales team were educators. They weren't salespeople, right? Jeffrey Gitomer says it best when he says, people like to buy, they don't like to be sold.
Don't like to be sold. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. And so we worked with our sales team to show them, look, go out there, sell the right beer to the right account, and educate people on these new beers that are coming out. Don't be salesy. Don't try and push people in the wrong direction just so that you can get an instant win. This is a long-term play. So be there for the long term, educate them on the right beer and the right account, and eventually the business will come. And thankfully it did.
I love it. So when your salespeople go out, obviously the more we talk about the craft beer, it's more about customization, right? So in finding the right product for the right account, just as you mentioned. Like, so what type of stories do they tell them? Like, what does excite consumers today or customers?
Sure. So let me paint you a picture of the early days, right? We would walk into an account and they would have on a light beer, a domestic beer, another light beer, and another domestic beer, and maybe Guinness or something like that, right? And so we would
Okay.
ask them, we'd say, hey, what's your slowest moving beer here? And they would point out a light beer or something like that. Well, we wouldn't go in there and sell them a double IPA right out of the bat. We would sell them like a wit beer, Avery White Rascal, for example, because it was a
Okay.
very approachable beer. It didn't rip their head off, but they were like, wow, this has more flavor than the other beers that I'm used to buying. And they
Yeah.
would put that beer on, and their customers all of a sudden would start saying, wow, this is really good. Well, what also happens is the customers pay a little more for the beer. The customer, and when I speak about the customers, I'm talking about the people that come, the patrons that come.
Yeah, who
The
actually come in and support, right? So,
Correct, correct. And they also tip better, which is another really good story, right? So if they're going to tip better, they might spend more money. The next thing you know, they're evolving their food menus to try and accommodate people that are interested in having more flavor and more interest in their selections at that restaurant or bar. Same thing with the off trade, right? At a liquor store or at a grocery store. We did the same practice there. And anyway, when you flash forward to today, you walk into bars and they're 100% craft. And so today it shifted a little bit more towards what's the latest beer you have? What collaboration might you be interested in selling to us? What's a new
mhm,
beer that's come out from this particular brewery? So it has shifted a little bit, and we call it rotation nation. Bars
mhm.
are switching beers out so fast, which makes it kind of hard for a brand to build in some of these restaurants and bars, but it is the nature of the beast. And you just have to try and walk that road to say, I'm going to have a selection of customers that are going to have permanent handles on, meaning they're not going to rotate them. And then I've got some bars that are going to rotate my beers out every 2 weeks or whatever it is. And just learning how to kind of own a section of that tower from your distribution standpoint is really
Mhm.
what this game is all about. And the same thing applies to liquor stores. If you own a door or you own a shelf, you want to make sure that you keep that space for you and for you as a distributor and for you as that brand, and make sure that someone doesn't knock you out. And it's just a
Mhm.
relationship based game at the end of the day. And we firmly believe that our reps were really good at Stone at building relationships and building trust. And that was the most important thing, was building a lot of trust, so that if someone else came in and said, I got this new shiny beer, like, yeah, but I trust this guy more or this gal more. And that's why I
Uh-huh.
want to make sure I'm giving them the appropriate amount of business.
So relationship, okay. So and that would be a connection of the story with it being a trustworthy, right?
Certainly.
And
Certainly.
trying to associate this. Okay, so it's a traditional market, right? So people been doing it for a long haul. But you mentioned that you're using very innovative technology right now at Kegstar.
Mhm.
Is there any other stories of being innovative, like a new innovative angle which came out in this industry recently? Can you think of something like that? Yeah.
I can. I'll go back to the craft beer world. It's interesting when you look at most of the craft breweries that are out there, they don't advertise,
Yeah.
right? So when you look at, to your point, the long haul of the big breweries, you see Super Bowl ads and you see all this stuff. Well, the craft brewery world took to the internet, and they said this is going to be a very transparent way for us to talk about beer and educate other people about beer and show them if the beer is good, if they don't like it, whatever it is. But it became this whole subculture of people turning to the internet and talking about beer. And that was the way that the word got spread about all these craft breweries. So
Hmm.
when you look at 6,000 of them across the country, probably 99% of them don't advertise. And
At
so
all.
that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's amazing, right? When you hear about such an explosive category that has not gone down traditional advertising to get their market and to get their message out there.
Huh. Okay, so they basically ignored the traditional advertising mediums completely and relied on the world of social media and just having a good name, right?
Yeah, good name, good brand, good beer. They were disruptive, and Stone especially is very disruptive in what they do. They definitely wanted to poke the bear and tell them all the things that they were doing that was wrong, and how Stone was doing things differently and being very disruptive. And to this day, they're still very disruptive in the marketplace. They opened a brewery in Berlin, for example, which is a interesting place for a brewery that's based in San Diego to go
Oh
put another
yeah, of
brewery,
course. This is like
right?
the holy land of beer, right? So,
Absolutely, yeah, and they're being very successful there, so it's fun to watch.
huh. So for the young entrepreneurs or for people going into this market, like overall, and you had a tremendous experience in this industry, what should be the overall mindset? How should you psych yourself if you go into this business?
Sure. So it's twofold. It's the people that are in it, and it's the people that are looking to get into it. Right. All of this applies to both categories of new and old customers or new and old craft breweries. everything has to be on point these days. The market is becoming more competitive. The share of people that are moving to craft is not growing at the same rate that it was before. So everything has to be spot on. Your marketing has to be spot on. Your messaging has to be spot on. Your beer quality has to be flawless time and time again. And it used to be, call it 5-6 years ago, if you had an off-flavored beer or you had a miss on marketing, it was kind of cute. It was considered to be part of craft and people looked the other way. It's not the case anymore. You have to be very diligent about what you're doing every single day. A lot of the craft breweries have been bought by some of the major domestic guys out there, the Budweisers, the Miller Coors, the Constellation brands, if you will. So they're also playing in the same space. And for the majority of our customers, they don't know which one's a major domestic brand versus which one is what we call authentic craft, right? So for the people that are still independent craft, they have to be on their A game every single day. And that means having a very educated and robust sales team, a very good story, very good messaging to the customers on their packaging and in their tap handles. And that's frankly a lot of the things that I teach at my course at San Diego State is that you have to have all these put together today.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I was just gonna talk about the third circle, because you're not just in the business, right? And which is great, by the way. You're also teaching and helping people. I think the course you're teaching called Business of Craft Beer, I think, right? So
that's correct. Yes,
that's the name of it. So, like, how do you get into teaching, and how do you combine this with a full-time job and being a leader for the company?
Sure. So it's an extended studies course. So it's not like I'm teaching an entire semester. It's a 2-day class. And it's part of a certificate program through San Diego State. So you go and you take many other classes. You have to take several prerequisite classes before you can be part of mine. You learn about draft systems, you learn about off-flavor beer, you learn about legal contracts and marketing and all this other stuff, right, as part of that program. And then my class is usually the last one. But to answer your question first, how I got into it, a gentleman at Stone was teaching off flavors and beer styles down at SDSU, and they were looking for somebody to teach the business of craft. And he referred me to the program. I did a couple interviews, and much like I fell into Stone, I fell into this program, and it's been really a lot of fun. It's something that I very much enjoy doing. I either teach it on a Saturday or on 2 Thursday nights. And it's about 25 to 30 people that come into the course. And it's hugely rewarding. It's a lot of fun. And it's rich in storytelling, which is, I think, what makes me most proud about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Storytelling aspect is exciting. So technically, these people are about to graduate, right? So they're about to go to the industry, and you are sort of the last touch before sending them to in the big business world. Right.
Correct.
So how do you prepare them? Do you focus on the beer itself, or this is more like on the business and how to make money in this industry?
Yeah, correct. My course is all about how to make money. It is not about how to make beer or how to produce beer. I know about beer, and I feel like I'm above average on an education standpoint, but I've never brewed a beer before, and I don't stand up there and tell them about how to make beer. I do tell them how to take their knowledge of how to make a beer and turn that into how to make money in the craft beer industry.
Yeah, that's right. No, I love it. Because a lot of people, they're truly passionate about the product and they're really good at what they do. But when it comes to selling or marketing, like a lot of our students, they're same thing, right? So they're timid, they're shy, they don't know how to do it. And teaching them how to tell their story is one of the keys. So like, I don't know if you find this as well. Like, so as soon as they start telling their story, things changing, right?
Yes, it's really critical. I've had many breweries when I was working at Stone. They would come in and I would say, "Hey, tell me about your name. Where did you come up with this fantastic name?" And I would say 50% of the time they didn't have an answer for that. And I would say, "Go back to the drawing board. You need to tell me why you chose this name." And just from that little standpoint, that little nuance of why you chose this name is so important because people want to experience a brand, right? When you go and you drink your favorite IPA, it's really neat to read the can or the bottle and look at what that story is. And if you can't vocalize or write in what that story is all about, you're missing a huge piece of the puzzle because people need to resonate with that brand. And if you can't communicate that message to them, then they're not going to be loyal to your brand. So yes, telling that story is very important.
Yeah, exactly. Because they got to see the connection, right? So like, why am I looking at this picture? Why I'm hearing this story? And now like I'm enjoying that beer. Like, does the taste correspond with the story I have just heard? right? So
Absolutely.
things like
Or do they make other beers, right? Am I missing some styles that I haven't tried from them in the past? And if so, let me go seek those out. And that's another big part of this storytelling.
Okay, no, it's been fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing this. So we're about to wrap up, but I want to ask you a couple more questions, if I may.
Sure.
So, like we talked about this a little bit, but what challenges do you see facing many of today's business owners, sales leaders, not necessarily just in the beer industry, but overall?
So I think as a leader in sales today, you've got to realize that there's very different ways of managing a sales team. I think that you've got generational gaps now in communication methods. You have feedback gaps in how to provide feedback to a sales team. And frankly, if you're not providing a roadmap to success for your sales team, whether it be through effective storytelling or effective goalkeeping, you're going to miss the mark. And I've seen that happen several times. But I think that if you hit it and you do a good job of that, your sales team will rally behind you and they'll move mountains. People are amazing when they get behind a leader and they do something for that person or for that leader. You've seen it in many successful companies that the sales team can really push things through that otherwise may not have been successful. And it's really because of that communication, the response that goes back to the sales team, and making sure that they have a roadmap to success. And if you aren't providing those three areas, you're probably missing out on really getting the most out of your sales team.
Oh, fantastic. So I love that advice. So you mentioned storytelling, so I think it's safe to ask you that question. What does the art of storytelling means personally to you?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and it's a very important question. When you go in as a salesperson and you're selling something to somebody, it's not about you. It's about them. And if you aren't telling a proper story and asking a lot of questions and learning about them and their needs and their desires, and then transferring that back into a story on how they can be successful, you're not going to make it in sales. So you have to realize you got to check your ego at the door, and it's all about the customer. It's not about you. Building that relationship comes with time and with trust and with passion. But initially, you've got to find out what their desires are and what their needs are and what their challenges are. And if you can respond to those challenges and vocalize that back to them and provide solutions to their problems, then you're going to be the best salesperson that they've ever seen. And follow-up is critical. Most salespeople, oddly enough, don't follow up. But if you are one of the few people that do follow up, you're probably going to win. And if you're passionate about what you're doing, effective in your storytelling, following up, effective in listening, which a lot of people aren't, they're just really good at talking, but they're not great at listening. But taking all of those elements and putting them together in a nice little bow on top of it, you're going to be a very successful salesperson. And that's what I've seen in my career. And hopefully that's something that resonates with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't. I probably was not able to say this better myself. So thank you. Fantastic answer. So really appreciate it. So you guys have any upcoming events, any particular sources, anything at all we can mention for our listeners?
Right now we're not, because we're a supplier. We don't do a lot of events. We just came off of the Craft Beer Conference a few months ago. That's a big event for us at Kegstar. But right now it's some of the local events that we're doing. And, just check out the Kegstar website, which is kegstar.com/US.
Okay.
And look at that whenever you get a chance.
I'll be sure to do that. What's the best way to contact you or connect with yourself?
Probably through LinkedIn. I've got a pretty loyal following on LinkedIn. I don't have a private account, so just search me at Chad Heath on LinkedIn and look for me and reach out to me, direct message me, do whatever you want, and I'll absolutely make sure I get back to you.
All right, and mention two words: beer and storytelling, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Chad. It was a fantastic talk. Great topic. I really appreciate you coming to the show.
I've been honored to be on this. Thank you so much, Ed.
Thanks, Chad. Bye-bye.
That does it for this episode of Storytelling for Sales. You'll find show notes and links on our webpage, storytellingsales.com. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.